The call came in late in the evening. Just as she was settling into the quiet she had fought hard to rebuild. Her phone buzzed, lighting up the room with a familiar name, one she hadn't saved with affection. Only necessity. They shared a child. That was the only reason she hadn't blocked him completely. She hesitated before answering. Every instinct told her not to pick up, but fear of missing something important about their child pushed her to swipe the screen. The video connected, and his face appeared, calm, almost casual. For a brief moment, she wondered if she had misjudged him. Maybe he just wanted to talk. She was wrong. Their relationship had ended months earlier, but the breakup never felt final to him. What she called freedom, he saw as rejection. Friends later described him as controlling, possessive, and deeply insecure. During the relationship, he dictated who she could talk to and where she could go. After the separation, his control shifted forms. Endless messages, accusations, threats disguised as concern. And always, their child was at the center. That night, the video call began like so many others. He complained. He accused her of poisoning their child's mind against him. He said she was ruining his life. She tried to keep her voice calm, repeating that their conversation should focus on co-parenting. She reminded him that their child could hear them. That's when the camera angle changed. She saw their child in the background, standing near him, eyes wide and confused. Her heart skipped. She asked why their child was still awake. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he smiled, a small, unsettling smile that made her stomach drop. Within seconds, the tone shifted. Her child began to cry, calling out for her. Panic surged through her body. She begged him to stop whatever he was doing. She demanded that he hand the phone to their child. Her voice rose, breaking into desperation. He didn't stop. Investigators would later determine that the call was not spontaneous. It was planned. He had been stewing in anger for days, convinced that hurting her emotionally was the only way to regain control. And in his twisted thinking, there was no weapon more effective than their child. As the cries grew louder, she screamed into the phone, threatening to call the police. He laughed, calm, chilling, unmoved. He told her she should have thought about the consequences before leaving him. He said this was her fault. Then the crying stopped. The silence that followed was unbearable. She shouted her child's name again and again, pleading for any sound, any movement. The screen shook, the image blurred, and the call ended abruptly. Her hands trembled as she dialed emergency services. Her words came out broken, barely coherent. Officers were dispatched immediately. Every second felt like a lifetime as she waited, praying that what she had seen was some kind of sick bluff. It wasn't. When police arrived at his residence, they found him inside. He didn't attempt to flee. According to reports, he appeared detached, as though the enormity of what he had done existed outside of him. Their child was found unresponsive. Paramedics tried desperately to save the life that had been taken, but there was nothing they could do. The child was pronounced dead at the scene. The news shattered the community. Neighbors, family members, and strangers struggled to understand how a parent could commit such an act, not in a moment of blind rage, but as an intentional display meant to cause suffering. Detectives described it as one of the most disturbing cases they had handled, not just because of the crime itself, but because of the cruelty behind it. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't sudden. It was revenge. As investigators dug deeper, a pattern emerged. Text messages revealed escalating threats. Friends recalled him saying, "If I can't have them, no one will." There were missed opportunities, warning signs that seemed small at the time, but now felt enormous in hindsight. No restraining order, no supervised visitation, just trust placed in someone who had already shown signs of instability. The court case drew widespread attention. Prosecutors painted a clear picture. A man who used technology as a stage, turning a private act of violence into a form of psychological torture. The video call, they argued, proved intent. He wanted her to watch. He wanted her pain to last far beyond that night. The defense attempted to claim emotional distress, arguing that he was overwhelmed by the breakup, and felt pushed to the edge. But the prosecution dismantled that argument piece by piece. Heartbreak does not justify murder. Anger does not excuse cruelty. And nothing explains using a child as leverage. The jury deliberated carefully. When the verdict was read, guilty on all counts, the courtroom was silent. There was no celebration, no relief, only grief. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his life in prison. For many, it felt like a necessary conclusion, but not a satisfying one. Justice could not undo what had been done. It could not erase the memory of that call, or the screams that would echo in the mother's mind forever. Outside the courthouse, she spoke briefly to reporters. Her face carried a pain beyond words, yet her voice was steady. She described her child as loving, playful, and full of light. She said she shared her story not for sympathy, but as a warning. Control doesn't disappear when a relationship ends, she said. Sometimes, that's when it becomes most dangerous. Advocates for domestic violence prevention echoed her message. They emphasized that emotional abuse, threats, and manipulation are not harmless. When someone uses fear and control, especially involving children, it must be taken seriously. Separation is often the most dangerous time for victims. Memorials appeared across the city, flowers, candles, handwritten notes from strangers who had never met the child but felt the weight of the loss. Online, people asked the same question again and again. How could this have been prevented? There was no simple answer. The case became a haunting example of how modern tools, video calls, instant communication, can be weaponized. Technology that connects families can also expose them to new forms of harm when placed in the wrong hands. Today, the mother lives with an absence that can never be filled. She continues to advocate for stronger protections, hoping that telling her story might save another child, another parent, another family. Because sometimes, the most terrifying crimes don't happen in secret. Sometimes, they happen on a screen, live, deliberate, and impossible to forget.